Okay, bear with me today. I am going live using a new streaming software. And in the streaming software, it's trying to connect our Facebook to our YouTube. And I believe that it's going to connect all of the comments together. So if you're watching this on Facebook and you're one of the regulars that tends to attend these family education and support groups, if you can please write a comment, say something. I want to see if it links up to the streaming software that I'm up. Supposedly it's gonna, and let me see. Read this. Bear with me as I figure out these technical difficulties. There we go. It is coming. Oh, wow, this is awesome. So Jane, since you're the first one to respond on Facebook, I'm assuming you're seeing this, correct? All right, Jim. Okay, cool. Wonderful. This software is going to be really helpful. And there is something also that I could do here, which the reason why I chose to go to this software, because this is a family education support group, is I can also send this link, and you guys don't have to click on it yet. But if anybody clicks on that link, the StreamYard.com link, what it allows you to do is it allows you to actually pop your camera open and come in on this discussion with me face by face or screen by screen. So it would be your picture and my picture together. And I've been doing this on Sundays on a live stream that I do with a Dr. B. And it's really cool. People have been popping up and being able to ask questions and receiving feedback and getting into live discussion together. So instead of writing on the side things, I'll keep posting that link throughout this live stream. And it allows people to kind of pop on. So it's a really nice feature, I think, for any mom or dad or spouse or sibling that's struggling, that just wants to ask specific questions about their case or their loved one. They can pop up and participate in this. Or if it's a professional in the field, a counselor, a therapist wants to come up and give their opinion and pop up. So now that you know that by clicking on that link, there's an available option to pop in on the live stream, maybe in future weeks, any of you moms, dads, counselors that have been coming on this, if you want to pop up and share what you've gained out of this, I know it takes a little courage and bravery, so I'm not expecting you to just pop on right now. But moving forward, I would like to, because we've been doing this on the Sunday talk with Dr. B, and I'm getting people from Bosnia, from Sweden, from Australia. They pop up and they start talking to us and about the addiction and recovery process, and they're getting really it's just really awesome. So all that being said, welcome to the Family Education and Support Group. My name is Param. A few things about myself. Param, I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I am a licensed advanced alcohol and drug counselor. I've also personally been clean and sober since June 13th of 2008. So I believe my personal experience, my professional experience, it allows me to have the platform to be able to speak with you, provide some support, offer up some feedback, and do what I can to help you in your recovery. So all that being said, today I do have a collection of sayings, quotes, things that have helped not only myself, but other human beings out in the recovery process. And I want to share those with you, because the goal of this, so by the end of this talk, I want each of you to be able to say that, hey, this talk today really helped deepen my understanding of recovery, whether it's the recovery of yourself, the recovery of your loved one, the journey of recovery, or just how can you improve on what you already have. Okay. So yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the highs from Facebook. This is going on our YouTube live too. Our YouTube is just getting started. I really am this quarter that just started the other day. My main emphasis is going to be on developing our YouTube brand and establish it. So this talk, if somebody doesn't have Facebook or prefers to consume media on YouTube, this should be live on Buckeye Recovery Network's Facebook page also. Okay, so let's get into this talk. And again, I'm going to post that link again one more time, just so you know in the comment section. That link allows anybody to click on it and to be able to participate in the talk with their video. So, some of you might not know that was an option, so you might not be ready today, but if you want to pop on and say, hey, how these family educations have helped you, or how these can help, any family member in the field, if you're a professional, feel free to. So today, the first thing I want to talk about is the 3 different levels of growth of the recovery process. Okay, so all of you watching this, you're in recovery. Our working definition for recovery is to regain something that's been lost, stolen, or destroyed. So the 3 different levels of growth that you need to be looking for is number 1, intellectual recovery. So what does that mean? And please don't confuse this with over intellectualizing recovery. Okay, I'm not saying you got to go think your way out of recovery, but intellectual means like knowledge, accumulating valuable pieces of information that helps you understand a little bit more at the level of knowledge. So for example, if you don't know what a sponsor is or how a sponsor can benefit your recovery, if you don't know what the Al-Anon program is, or what family therapy is, or what life coaching is, maybe learning about those things at the level of intelligence, at the level of knowledge, to be able to produce the growth you need. Because if you don't know something, how do you know that you're experiencing it? If you don't know something, how do you know what you're going to get out of it? Knowledge is really powerful. I'm not one of those people that says knowledge is power. Applied knowledge is power. So you can learn all you want to learn, but what do you do with what you learned? How do you actually apply it? So the next level of growth is emotional growth, is understanding your own emotions separate from the emotions of your loved ones. So when your son or daughter or grandkid or spouse or whatever goes up and down with their moods in recovery, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how your moods in your recovery process go up, go down, how you get frustrated, how you get angry, how you get sad, how you get overwhelmed, learning how to understand your emotional workings, right? It's really important for family members because you are an independent human being on your own, separate than the journey that your loved one is on. So learning about your emotions, and also learning about, we call them triggers. So your loved ones get exposed to these relapse prevention talks that are always about, hey, what are your triggers? How do you avoid them? Why do you put yourself in a situation that you know you're going to be triggered? Where's your decision-making process? Family members are the same way. You have your own triggers. You have people, places, and things in your life that when you expose yourself to, when you experience, when you're around, they impact your emotions. What is your plan to deal with those? Sometimes we can avoid them altogether. Sometimes we can't. There's certain family members you might not be able to avoid. How are you going to regulate your emotions while you're in their presence? There's certain employers or bosses that you can't avoid. How are you going to manage yourself? There's certain situations that you can't avoid. How are you going to manage yourself? And also finding out the root of your emotions. So as family members, I urge you to look back in your own personal history, personal development. What were the big things that impacted your emotions growing up? Get to work on those, because the more you're at peace with yourself, we talked about this last week, the more you're at peace with the recovery of yourself and the recovery of your loved one. So good morning, Julian. Thanks for being here. Julian, one day I'm going to make you pop up on the screen using that link. You could be my guinea pig. You don't have to do it today, but I do want to see if it works. So if you feel courageous enough, Julian, click on the link and pop up here. I'll say some really good things about you if you do. And they won't be lies too. They'll be 100% truth. But let's move to the next one. The next one is your physical growth. Okay. And physical just means your physical body. Now, I'm not going to get into that too much right now. I've talked about it in previous weeks enough. But if you are in the recovery process as a family member and you are neglecting your own physical well-being, and physical well-being, by the way, isn't just your, how you look aesthetically. It's how you're managing stress within your body. It's how you're creating or consuming or saving energy. It's how you're sleeping. These things all go together. So that's the first thing, that if you're in your recovery and you're trying to deepen your recovery, if you're trying to feel better, if you're trying to be at more peace, you have to address the intellectual component, gathering and gaining more knowledge, accumulating more data, learning. The second thing is you have to learn about your mastering your emotions, as Tony Robbins likes to call it, right? Mastering your emotions and finding out what it is that ticks you, what it is that doesn't. And the last one we have is your physical body. Your body is your temple, as every single major religion in the world has reminded us for thousands of years. I don't care what religious background you have, whoever is the carrier of the message in that specific religion says one thing in common. They all say your body is your temple. How do you take care of the only place that you have to live? So the next one right here, these are going to be an accumulation of quotes that are very powerful in the recovery process. So again, you can watch this live stream later on recorded, or you can just take notes while I speak. Either way, it's all good with me. So the next one that I have it's powerful. It says, it's not knowing what to do, it's doing what you know. So the recovery process, it's not about knowing what to do. Sometimes it is. In the beginning, you might not know. So when you're new to recovery, when you're new to the addiction recovery world of enabling codependency, understanding boundaries, when you're new to all that, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay not to know. But as you've been in this progress, some of you have been watching this thing with me for like the past year, man, so I know that you guys know. There's no way you can watch me repeat the same things frequently and not have a good understanding of what the main concepts are. So recovery is not about knowing what to do. It's about doing what you know. Remember, knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. Applied knowledge is power. So give a lot of credit to yourself as a family member that's invested and engaged in the recovery process. Got a cat up here. And start doing the things that you already know. I've had family members sometimes, they get on the phone with me and they say they know exactly 100% without a shadow of a doubt what the answer to their question is. And don't get me wrong, I always love questions because it just provides more clarity. The only reason they ask me sometimes is for me to kind of just give a stamp of approval or a permission for them to do what they already know. Right? So don't underestimate the amount of knowledge that you've gained in the recovery process as a family member. You know a lot of stuff. You're a valuable resource. And how do you know if you know a lot of stuff? By the way, this is a good thing. If you've been in recovery for a little bit, I want you to think about your younger self, the previous version of yourself prior to the recovery process. So imagine you have him or her, you have your arm around their shoulder, him or her, and they don't know anything about recovery. They don't know anything about boundaries. They don't know anything about self-care. They don't know anything about communication. And you watching this right now, you've learned so much. Imagine having a hand around their shoulder. What would you tell them? Do you have any idea how much you know that they don't know? And how did this happen? Is because you just continuously put yourself in these situations to learn, to grow, to evolve as a family member. The next one that I have here is, it says repetition is the mother of all skill. So we look at any famous athlete, any famous movie star, any famous chef, artist, musician, skilled trade, surgeon, optometrist. That's just because I went and got my contacts lately, so I named off optometrist because the guy was very skilled at what he did. But the reason why a speaker, public speaker, motivational speaker, the reason why people are so good at what they do, sometimes, yes, they're talented, they're skilled, but because of the repetition, the sheer level of repetition they do. So if you are a family member in the recovery process and you've come into this world, right? First of all, it takes a lot of courage. So I'm proud of you for coming into recovery, and I'm more proud of you for staying in recovery for yourself, regardless of the outcome for your loved one. Stay in the recovery process for yourself because you need it just as bad as they need it. So when you come in here for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, a year, and you don't get the results that you look for, that you want, that you hope for, just please remember that you're acting the same way as if a pianist practices the piano for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and wonders why he or she cannot play in front of a big concert hall. Repetition is the mother of all skill. Yes, Jose and John, keep coming back. It's the most simple thing that we say in 12-step programs, yet what that keep coming back reinforces is this: keep repeating this process, because over an extended period of time, by just suiting up and showing up, by just repeatedly coming back, it starts to change the way we think, the way we feel, the way we act. It starts to change our entire universe and our entire world. So there's a lot of power to that, by the way. And the next one that I have, this one's kind of more on the joke side of things, but it's very important to talk about the recovery. So it says, the only people without problems are those buried in cemeteries. Okay, so my apologies for dark humor on a Saturday morning, but it says the only people in life without problems are those buried in cemeteries. So a lot of people come in with a false expectation and the wrong framework of thought that if they get clean and sober, that if they start the recovery process, that their problems will go away and they will live problem-free. We know that's false. People know that's false. But for whatever reason, when they come to get clean and sober, they think that all their problems should be gone just because they're clean and sober. Now, I will tell you this, that by not using drugs and alcohol, by not engaging with substances, the problems related to drinking and using and the consequences related to drinking and using will go away. So yes, stopping the use of drugs and alcohol will make your drug and alcohol problems go away. 100%. But stopping the use of drugs and alcohol will not make your life problems go away that happen to all of us universally. They just don't. It sets us up to be able to handle and manage and work on those problems a little bit better, if you want to call them problems. I personally call them opportunities for growth because I'm very optimistic in my thinking. But I've had a lot of program participants over the years, or even sponsees in the program over the years, come and say, hey, I'm clean and sober now. Why is my life not better? I'm clean and sober now. Why are my problems not gone away? I'm clean and sober now. Why did this happen to me in life? As if being clean and sober equals problem-free living. I mean, that is such a false expectation. It's such a setup for disaster. Yes, life will get different, Jim. That's a much easier. You know what's funny? When you guys write little comments, you pretty much say what I'm like saying, but you say it in like a three-word sentence. And it takes me like 7 minutes to elaborate on a point. But yeah, life gets different. You know, it's different in a better way. I'll tell you that. That's 100% true. But it gets different. And you know what? Even without clean and sober, if I ask any of you family members that don't have a drug and alcohol problem, is it safe to say that your life has gotten different over the years? Life always gets different, man. You know, life always gets different. It's I think that's what makes life life. You know, they say the only inevitable in life is change. And imagine if nature was the same way for an extended period of time, it changes. And that's the beauty of this whole thing. But problems are not going to go away. And even family members, you know, it's like, you hopefully you know this, that just by your loved one getting clean and sober, they're not going to live problem free. I mean, I know you know this. Just the problems with their drugs and alcohol addiction goes away. So this next one, it says, if you can't, you must. And if you must, you can. So I want you to think of all the things that you can't do in life. I can't set boundaries with my kid that are too strict. I can't start working out as many days as I want to work out. I can't leave this job and go to another job. I can't. When you're able to change those I can'ts to I musts. I must set boundaries with my kid because if I don't, he's going to die. I must start becoming healthy and living a more healthy life because if I don't, the doctor says this cholesterol, this diabetes, this cardiovascular condition is going to get worse. I must get out of this job that's draining my vitality, my soul, and I'm just, a slave to the paycheck. When you say you must do something, something phenomenal happens. The psychological and emotional muscles that be able to produce us to get the results we want, they get created. If you say you must do something, you can do something. If you must, you can. Anything and everything is possible. Any individual that's come through the recovery process that said, I must get sober, has been able to find the ways to get sober and stay sober. anybody that said I must do something can find the resources to be able to execute on the plan. So please, if you can't, you must. And if you must, you can. It's a very, very powerful distinction. And I want that to really stick with you. And again, thank you guys for all the side comments. Again, I'm just going to get in the habit of posting this little link. Just so you guys know, or if anyone's watching a little bit later right now, what that link allows you to do is if you click on that StreamYard link, it all of a sudden zooms you into this broadcast studio that I'm in, and I have the ability to welcome you into the studio, and then I'll be on one side of the screen, and your face will be on the other side of the screen. And by the way, if you don't want to show your face, you can have the camera shutter closed, just like we're all used to this stuff now, right? And you can just talk with audio. So let's say you want to talk about something that happened with your kid, or you want to talk about a pass, or you want to talk about boundaries, and you just say, hey, can I have a few minutes to come up here and talk? I'll click you on, and you're able to join the broadcast. Other people will be able to hear your voice or see your face if you're comfortable, and we'll have a discussion. Because I'll tell you this, as a family member having that discussion, you're not only getting some solution to your own questions, you're also helping every other person that's watching this. And same thing as a counselor, clinician, if you guys want to pop up here and just elaborate further on something that I'm saying from your perspective, if I know who you are and I trust your feedback, I will 100% connect you and have you come in here. So, yeah, I like that. When you say they will try, yeah, I always can. There's a lot of power in I can. Thank you, Jane. So the next one says, well, this one's kind of cool. I'm going to read this because it's a little bit longer. But it says, all personal breakthroughs bring with a change in beliefs. We got to break this one down. So how do we change? The most effective way is to get your brain to associate massive pain to an old behavior. Okay? So all personal breakthroughs in life, they bring about a change in belief. So you think about something that you've had a breakthrough in, you'll be able to identify how you think about it now is different than how you used to or at one point thought about it. That's hence breakthrough. It's a breakthrough in the level of thinking and the way that we believe. Okay? So how do we change? How do we create that? It's difficult, but it's also simple. You must, because if you must, you can, be able to associate massive pain to what it is that you're trying to change your belief on. So, family members, if you've ever had a breakthrough with boundaries, some of you have, some of you have not, some of you are somewhere in between. So, if your loved one repeatedly over an extended period of time continue to do the same thing over and over again, and you were left with the same result. You were left bitter, resentful, angry, pissed off, broke. And one day you said, I'm no longer going to do this. I'm no longer going to live this way. I've made up my mind, and that's my boundary, and that's where I'm at. In order to make that breakthrough last and stick the test of time, you must always associate the pain of not having boundaries with this newfound belief. If you do so, you're able to tap into this wonderful resource. You know, in the program for alcoholics, drug addicts, the 12-step program, it tells you this. It says this: never forget your last drink. Never forget your last high. Why do they say that? Because almost always the last drink or the last high is highly associated with pain. Nobody takes the last drink and says, you know what, I'm just going to go get clean and sober tomorrow. There's always some level of pain associated to it. And family recovery is painful. Enabling is a painful experience. So if you're able to associate pain with enabling, then you might have the opening to be able to start making the changes you want to make. Okay? But if you just say, you know what, their addiction wasn't that bad. They were just going through a certain life phase. They just had low confidence. They just had low self-esteem. It wasn't that bad. It was just they were young. Everybody was doing it back then. The more you detach from the level of pain that exists in that, the more likely it is that that cycle is going to keep repeating itself. You know, it's Yes, thank you guys for all these side comment chats, man. They're really good. And I hope you guys just interact or engage with each other there. There's a lot of wealth of knowledge, whether it's clinicians, family members, or people just giving feedback over there. I appreciate it. So, yeah, pain is a great motivator, but just these old beliefs, man, connecting pain to an old belief, who and what, how you experience life in the past before finding recovery is the painful experience. Man, addiction's painful, my friends. It's like there's a lot that comes with it. The psychological and emotional warfare, the guilt, the shame, the not living up to your own expectations of others. And the codependency is painful too. Knowing that you should do something differently, yet not doing it over and over again. Acting out of fear, not out of love. Acting out of anger, not out of compassion. All that kind of stuff is painful. And, this morning I remember talking to a program participant, a young one, and he's like, it really wasn't that painful. Because this kid's really, really young. We're talking like 18, 19 years old. And for him, addiction really wasn't that painful yet. It truly wasn't. And the family did a good job being proactive, getting ahead of this, that kind of stuff. And he's like, you know what? Like, I didn't experience that many consequences. And I told him, well, are you open to exploring a different version of what you're looking at? He's like, sure. I said, I've worked with human beings that are 25, that are 30, that are 35, that are 40, that are 45, that are 50. And I can tell you this, that as the timeline of their drinking and using extended and continued. So right now you're 18, 19 years old. The timeline of your drinking and using is small. But as it turns into a 5-year timeline, a 10-year timeline, a 15-year timeline, the amount of pain that will be experienced because direct result of drinking and using significantly increases. I have yet to meet somebody that says, hey, 10 years of drinking and using, my pain hasn't changed. It's progressive in nature. Consequences accumulate, sometimes even at an exponential level. If it's just in one area of life, it blows up into 5 areas of life. If right now it's just showing up in school, later on it'll show up in school, work, health, legal, family, relationships, and a little bit of everything in between, as you guys know I like to say. So, and again, if you're a family member and you're new to this thing and you're like, hey, it's just not that bad, it's only been a couple years. If you don't get it now, right? What if it's not just a couple years? What if you allow this thing to continue in your life for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? By the way, I'm not making that up. There's family members watching this right now that if they knew what they knew today, 10, 15, 20 years ago, they would have saved themselves. And I'm not saying their loved one. They would have saved themselves from countless hours of unease. They would have given themselves peace. They would have been okay with their circumstance, even though they weren't okay with the addiction of their loved one. They would have sent their loved one on their own journey a long time ago and took care of themselves. Hopefully those two paths would have came together a heck of a lot sooner. So I'm a big believer of that. And then it says, this one I've talked about maybe a month ago, but it's just a quote of it. So I'm not going to the whole talk. This one's actually a whole talk. It says, anytime you want to change anything in life, you must raise your standards. God, I love that one. It's Tony Robbins. You must raise your standards and change your life. So you look at the relationship you have with yourself. You look at your health. You look at your finances. You look at your recovery. You look at anything and everything in between. Whatever you are experiencing right now, whatever you have in your life, whatever you can touch, you can feel, you have, guess what it is? It is a direct result of the standards that you have set and the standards that you allow to experience in life. Your world is your standards. Now, if you look around and say, I don't like what I have, I don't want what I have, you have to raise your standards and change your life. And if you don't know how to raise your standards, if you don't know what that means, find a few people, role models, examples that seem to have standards that are above and beyond yours. They talk different, they look different, they walk different, they conduct themselves better, they feel better, as you could tell. And you see what they do, how they live their life, and start to emulate and model and live by those standards. Even if they're very high, even if they're hard to reach, they're still going to be higher than your current standards. Therefore, you will have other things that you currently don't have. That's the version I recommend. You want to know what the version is most people do? They sit on their standards and they look at other people who have lower standards than them. And they say, at least I'm not as bad as them. At least I'm not like that. And all of a sudden they become okay with the status quo. And they forget that their standards is their own creation. And this happens with drug addicts and alcoholics. And sorry for using that label. You know, I like to use human beings that are experiencing problems with their addictions, human beings that are experiencing problems with their alcohol consumption. That is a much, much, much more compassionate label. I use it all the time. I use addicts, alcoholics in these conversations because sometimes labels help with clarity of what the topic is, you know. But when I speak to a human being that's going through that stuff, that's what I personally use, just so you guys know. And what they do is a lot of times when they come into the program, though, they compare themselves with the kids that are worse because it feels better. Man, you feel better about yourself when there's someone worse than you. And the progressive nature of addiction, by the way, it starts to lower your levels of companions. So all of a sudden your standards start to just significantly go down. And so that was my first little section of this. I got a few more of these. Thank you, Ali. I appreciate that. I got someone saying I'm a role model here. There is a time in my life that nobody wanted to hear me. Nobody wanted to look at my face, let alone hear me speak, right? Let alone call me a role model. I'll tell you this, Ali, that I coach high school basketball. I've been coaching it for 11. This is my 12th season, actually. I've completed 11 seasons, and this is my 12th season. And at the end of the year, we have these things called high school basketball banquets. And these banquets we give out awards and stuff like that. And afterwards, the family members, you know, these are 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. Their family members come up to me and say, hey, we just want to know, I hope my kid grows up to be just like you. And I say, whoa, we gotta take out a big chapter of that life, because from your kid's age until about 24, 25 years old, trust me when I say this, you did not want your kid to grow up to be just like that guy. But like we're talking about here, pain is a great motivator, man. It's the person I was at 24 is not a person that I would want to ever be again in my life. And so maybe their kids could grow up to be like me, but hopefully, we'll talk about it in a little bit, they don't need to go through that level of pain to get there. I don't think that all of us need to go to that level of pain, but I do believe that pain is needed as a foundational point of transformation. So this one's wonderful. It is your decisions, not your conditions, that determine your destiny. So each one of you watching this right now, you have circumstances and you have conditions in your life that are unique to you, right? They're unique to you. And some of us, those conditions and circumstances were not fair from the get-go. You know, you came into this world and life just was all screwed up, right? The cards that were dealt to you were just horrible. The hands sucked. Mom, dad, the world, nothing reinforced anything positive to you. And as a result, you're sitting in some conditions right now that you're not happy with, okay? However, the decisions you make today, the decisions you make moment by moment, the good decisions, the healthy decisions, the proper decisions, when you apply the knowledge that you're accumulating, when you make the right decision today, what it does is it changes tomorrow a little bit. If you continue to make healthy, positive decisions in the direction that you're trying to go to in your recovery, ultimately one day your circumstances and your conditions will be different. Therefore, you are not your current circumstance. You are not your current environment. It's not you. It's just where you're experiencing life at right now. If you don't like it, raise your standards, change your life. Make better decisions. And what happens is down the line, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, you're going to be sitting around a world that your circumstances and your conditions are going to be a heck of a lot different than today. The only reason that transforms is because of your decisions. Now, if you tend to make the same type of decisions you've been making that have led you to your current circumstance, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you will be living the exact same world with the same exact circumstances, wondering, why is life not fair? Why is life not fair? So please don't underestimate the power of decisions, man. The power of decisions are so good. The same way that you have decided to take action in your recovery, and you're going to start to feel better. You're going to start to look better. You're going to start to heal. You're going to start to transform, right? Did you go from the way you were when you were enabling, codependent, toxic, and unable to communicate, resentful? Were you able to go from that state to a state of being at peace of mind just automatically? No. One good decision after another, after another, after another creates that for us. So the next one that I have here is most people fail in life, or most people fail in recovery because they major in minor things. Okay? So if you use the majority of your time, and remember, time is our number one greatest resource, time and health. But if you use the majority of your time, focusing on things that don't matter, focusing on low priority tasks, focusing on ways to just avoid pain, and you're wondering why you don't feel fulfilled in your recovery, it has less to do with your recovery and more to do with the fact that you're majoring in minor things. We must major in major things. Find out what your desired outcome of your recovery is for you. What do you want to see happen for yourself? Where do you want to go for yourself? What do you want to achieve for yourself? And if you do those things, what's going to happen is you're going to start prioritizing and reprioritizing your day. If something isn't major, you let it slide. If something is major, you focus on it, you hone in on it, you pay attention to it. So if you're trying to go from where you are to where you want to go in life, if you're trying to fill that gap, you must start majoring in major things. The minor things, anything that's related to gossip, anything that's related to crap, mindless TV, anything that's related to poor nutrition that drains your vitality, anything that's related to wasting time with people that you don't get anything in return from. All that kind of stuff won't take you to where you're trying to get to. Major in the major things. And this next one says, people are not lazy. They simply have weak goals that do not inspire them. I don't believe that anybody is lazy, by the way. I believe that we're all motivated and inspired by different things. It's very unique. What gets someone going might not get another person going. And recovery is the same way. If you wake up in the morning and you're not inspired to work on yourself, to take some active steps in your recovery, if you're not inspired or motivated to do it, it has less to do with recovery and more to do with what you're not connecting to the recovery process. Because if out of recovery, you achieve peace of mind, you achieve emotion stability, you achieve happiness, you achieve fulfillment. If you achieve all of those things out of recovery and sobriety, and you wake up in the morning and you don't want to do those things, that's really, really odd. But people look at recovery as another thing I have to do. They look at it as a chore. They look at it as, oh, this is just what everyone else is supposed to do. They don't associate massive reward and payoff to it. So please remember that people aren't lazy. You watching this are not lazy. You have just not found what gets you going related to the recovery process. It's really powerful if we can get that distinction. I think it's really important to do, actually, for all of us. The next one that I have here, there's only two more. It says, in life, you need either inspiration or desperation. So you can watch this talk on a Saturday morning or afternoon for my East Coast people, and you can get inspired by some of the things that I'm saying. You can get inspired to take some action. You can get inspired to go walk around the block. You can get inspired to communicate with someone you haven't spoken to. You can get inspired to do 1,000 different things that maybe you weren't going to do. Inspiration through another human being or situation is a beautiful thing. I like to use daily inspiration for myself. Now, if you don't do the inspiration route, if all you do is listen to Parham once a week and that's it, and then you go in your own world, The other version of motivation is actually through desperation. When you get desperate enough to do something, people tend to do it. People that get desperate enough to do something typically tend to do something. So I pray that today you either get hit with massive inspiration or with some desperation. The desperation one hurts a little bit more. The inspiration one feels good. So it's kind of pick your poison. Like I said, like to do the inspiration thing. It's a much powerful way to go. And this last one that I have here is it's not what you get, but what you become, what we contribute that gives meaning to our lives. So I touched about this a little bit last time. It's if you're watching these saying, what am I getting out of this? What am I getting out of this? What am I getting out of this? Or if your loved ones are in the recovery program saying, what am I getting out of this? Or I'm not getting anything out of this anymore. That doesn't just apply to the recovery world. People that are constantly focusing on what they're getting, they tend to do the same thing in other areas of their life. When they're at work, what am I getting out of this? When they're in a relationship, what am I getting out of this? When they're in a friendship, what am I getting out of this? When they're at anywhere and everywhere, what am I getting out of this? So that thought process of getting, it doesn't just happen in the recovery world. It happens everywhere. Instead of saying, what can I give to this? What can I give to this relationship? What can I give to this work environment situation? What can I give to this peer friendship? Right? If we just shift that level of thinking and go from a getting to giving stage, something phenomenal happens. We start to feel interconnected with each other and interconnected with the world. People that are connected, they have a higher level of quality of life. They feel better. They do better. They live longer. So, and ultimately they feel fulfilled. So please, as you're watching these, and I know you guys do, you guys are this is a really unselfish crew. And my request is maybe in the next week that I do this again on the live, when I send this little link out right here, which I'll send it again just so you guys get familiar with it. When I send that link out, maybe one of you, few of you can pop on this live. And again, you could do it with your camera on or your camera off, and maybe talk about the family recovery process for yourself. Why not? I know a lot of you, I know every single one of you guys go to Al-Anon groups, and you guys are familiar with the process of sharing. I know that's more of an anonymous program, so this will take a little bit more courage to do so. But again, you can do it with your screen off. That's an option. But I do need to make sure that this platform starts to become more of a resource for people to be able to share. Because like I said, every Sunday I do this thing with Dr. B, and that's a big platform. There's about 10, 12,000 people on those on his YouTube page. So there's a lot of people on, but we're just taking callers in left and right, and they're coming in and they're talking, and they're just so brave and courageous, and we're helping out, and it's really fun to be a part of, and it's really doing a lasting impression for people in the future, because anyone can watch that, say, oh my gosh, like I really got something out of that conversation. So please, for me, if you guys can, someone pop up next week, and let's have a little conversation on this thing. But all that being said, I hope the quality was good. I'm going to go back and watch this. I have no idea what was happening. I didn't have my Facebook up, the YouTube up, nothing. I'm through the streaming software. So you got to start somewhere. And for those of you who've been watching this for the past year, you remember where we started from? Oh my gosh, this thing has come such a long way, and it's only going to get better because I'm committed to continuous product and quality improvement of my life, your life, and anyone else that comes watch these. So love and appreciate the feedback. Again, I'm going to get some of you to pop on here next week, so be ready, and we'll go from there. And it's kind of cool, by the way. I can also highlight certain conversations that people are saying, so contributing instead of expectation, love those conversations. It was good. So if you even ask a question, I will be able to post it for you guys, great. So I'm learning. There's a lot of really wonderful things we could do here. Got family in there too. Another great session, always inspiring. So if you even write a question you don't want to pop up, like, hey, what do we do with our loved one when he says he wants to come back home? I can be able to answer those with a question right here. So very helpful. I'll be back good. Maybe come ask some questions next week. So, man, love and appreciate you guys. This is going to be really fun. So thank you so much. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy Easter for those of you who celebrate, and happy Season to all the Iranians. So I love and appreciate you guys. Bye-bye.